Hello, Graham Howarth from pagebuilderinminutes.com. In today's video we're going to look at 4 more tips for improving your landing page. We're going to build on previous videos that we've done, so if you haven't seen those then I'll put the links below this video and you can go and have a look at those before coming back here. The first thing we're going to do is look at adding a consent box into the email form so that you are compliant with GDPR regulations, etc. We're also going to look at adding a success message which the subscriber will see on the screen as soon as they hit the submit button. And then we're going to look at the alternative way of doing that is by linking them back to a thank you page on your website. And finally we're going to look at margins and padding to see how we can make the form look different. Okay, so the next thing we're going to look at is adding the consent checkbox onto your email contact form, which is something the subscriber will see and be asked to tick. It's a way of protecting you against the regulations of GDPR and make sure you're compliant with those regulations. So to do that we go to the page settings, and again we're not going to look at this. We looked at the style previously and changing colors and images, etc. But this time we're going to look at settings. And in the settings, if we scroll down, you'll see that there is this section here which include a consent checkbox. So we tick that and immediately you'll see in the form over here that checkbox has appeared, and it's appeared with this text here which we can change. So I've already prepared some text, so I'll just pause the video momentarily and I'll copy that text in and then we can see what difference that makes. Okay, so you can see that I've now pasted in some text that I prepared earlier, and over here now you'll see that that's changed and it says I'd like to receive further information updates about time management. In other words, they're ticking that box and giving you the authority to send them further email based information about the time management subject. So that's how you add in the consent checkbox into your email contact form. Okay, so now we'll look at adding in a success message, a message that your subscriber will see once they click the button down here, and this success message will appear straight away on the screen. So again we're looking at the page changes and we're looking at the settings, and if we scroll down you will see that there is a button here which says show a success message. So if we click on that then you'll see that this currently is the message that they will receive. So what we'll do is change that to something more meaningful to around the subject of the email contact form. Okay, you'll see now that I've changed the message here, which now says thanks for requesting your copy of the 4 Ps of time management, should appear in your inbox shortly. Quite a concise message that will appear on the screen as soon as they submit their contact details by pressing on the button here. Okay, we can use an alternative method to the message that we've just keyed in here, which appears immediately on the screen once the subscriber has pressed this button. What we can do is send them to a page on your website when they press the button to enter their contact details. And we do that, again we're still in the page settings, and we do that by ticking this button here which is redirect to a different page. When we do that it will ask us for the URL. Now that will be the URL of your thank you page on your website, and as an example I've just put one onto my page builder site here, which we can take a look at. If I click on that one, then you'll see that it's got more formatting in. It's a nicer format. You can sensibly include more information. What I've said here is if it doesn't arrive in your inbox, please check your spam and get them to whitemail your email address. So that's the email address that you put in your list to the details will be, the emails will be sent from. So that what that does is it gives you the opportunity to reinforce the message that you'd like to send them further information, and it gives you the opportunity also that if they don't receive the email for some reason, you can give them your contact details. I put my email address there. I've also put the contact form on the website should they want to use that. So if they click that one, for example, it will immediately take them to the contact form where they can give me as much information as they need to do. Alternatively, if they click on the email address, it should open up their email folder. There we go. It's just opened up my email server, and we've gone straight to an email there. So you're giving them different ways to contact you from the redirect page. Looks a bit more professional, but initially the message that displayed on the screen will be fine. Okay, the final thing we're going to look at today is how we can change the look of your form a little bit, and the page itself. Now what we can do here is add some spacing, change some of the borders so that it begins to look a little more formatted. In a subsequent video I'll show you how you can add additional information into your page itself. So if we go to the page and we have a look at the preview, we can see what the form looks like at the moment, and the contact form within it is spread across the width of of this column here. So what I'm going to do is make that a little less wide, and we'll add some space, some vertical spacing in, so that we make it stand out a little bit more. As I say, in a subsequent video we'll look at how we can strengthen that even further. But for the moment, let's just look at that. Now the way we do that is if we go back to the editor. Okay, so now what we can do is if we select the form again, at the moment we're looking at some of the page settings, but if we look at the form settings in here, then this is where we can change the look and feel of the contact form itself. So you'll see if we go to the margin here, we've got top and bottom margins that we can set, and you can either use the arrows to do that, or you can key in a number yourself. Let's just set that back to where it was, 16, so you'll see that space there. If I add in, say, 50, you'll see that the space here becomes much bigger. And if I add in the same, let's say the same number here, it will change the spacing down at the bottom. So if I add in there 50 in there, then you'll see that the what we've got now is a space here after the contact form and before the social media images that we've currently got in there, and we've got a little bit more of a space here. So you can just do whatever settings you want. Now you'll notice I clicked on the page, so we've gone back to the page settings. We go back to the form. You can set those to whatever you want them to be. Now I'll just set that back to the 16 that it was before and the 0 there, so you'll see we've taken those spaces out now. Now you'll see if I put into the padding here, it has exactly the same effect, top and bottom, giving us the spaces between the contact form and the top of the form here. But what we can also do is to change the, let me just change those back to 0, and you'll see that although we had sort of the same effect there, it was actually changing the form. Whereas if I put the top margin to 50 again, you'll see it's moved the whole form. So the margin is outside of the form. Again, if I do the bottom one, but if we look at, set that back to 16, that back to 0. If we look at the padding again, when I increase the padding, it actually is the padding within the form itself, as opposed to the space outside of the form. So if we make that, say, 30, we make that 30, oops, make that 30 as well, then you'll see that there is now some space at the top and bottom of the form, but within the form box as opposed to outside the form. If we use these left and right hand side paddings here, and again if I do, I'll probably exaggerate it a little bit, if I do 100 in there and 100 in there, you'll see that we're really squashing that up now. And if we look at the preview, you know, that's quite a tiny form and not really a lot of space for people to enter their contact information. So that's probably gone a little bit too far. So if we go back to the editor and we go into the form settings again, instead of 100, let's set that to say 50 on left and right, and let's see what impact that has when we look at the preview. Now that is still giving us quite a little bit of room, but it means that we've got slightly less width to the form, and it's personal choice obviously, but I think that looks slightly better than having the full width. And you'll see that even more when we add other content in a later video. Okay, let's just return to the editor, and this time instead of looking at the whole form, which we did before, then we'll look at the individual field boxes here. So if I click on first name, for example, and go to the settings tab for that, then I can increase the margins for that first name box. So just click on that again, make sure you're in the right place. Yeah, we can click on the margin there and make that, say, let's go for 25, and we put a bigger space between the email address and the first name. Now I can do the same with last name if I choose to. Let's make that 25 as well, so we've got an equal space between them. So you'll see we've spaced out those a little bit more on the form. So again, if we look at the preview, then we can see the bigger space between those. Now it's personal preference, and you may want to reduce that back down again, but that's fine. You just go back to the field that we did before. Make sure you click twice there to make sure you're picking up the field and not the form. And then if we go back in there, we maybe, let's just say, reduce that down to 15. And if we go to the last name and do the same, then we've reduced that gap down a little bit. And again, if we do the preview, we can see what that looks like on the form. So that looks quite neat as we've got it there. So we'll leave those as they are for the moment. However, what you can also do, if I again choose first name, for example, going to the first name box, into the settings, we can use these padding fields here to make changes as well. So again, just to exaggerate it a bit, if I put 20 in there, you'll see the effect on that is that it offsets that first name field. And if I do the same on last name, do the padding here, then that's okay. And if we look at the preview, then we'll see that that's had the impact of offsetting the first name and the last name. Again, it depends what you want to do with it, but you can play with those padding settings and do whatever you want with that. So if we go back to the first name box, for example, I could set that to maybe 10, and if I do the same on last name, I can set the other side to 10, and you see that has the effect of pushing the right hand boundary of the field across. However, word of caution, when you look at that, you've obviously decreased the size of the field there. Now you might want to center those or do other things with them, but whatever the changes you make there, whatever you change, if you don't like it, just go back to the editor. We'll go to the settings, we'll take those two out. Now, word of warning here, you can delete that number by hitting the backspace key, but it will not affect what you've done here. You must key in a number there, even if that number is 0. And when I key in 0, it brings it back to there. And if we do the same there, just type a 0 in there, and then we go to the last name, do the same again, take those back to 0 and 0. Then when we look at our preview, you'll see that we're still left with the spaces that we put in between the fields, but they're all the equal size now again. So that's you can do whatever you want to do with that to make the form look how you want it to look, but just be careful that you don't make your boxes too small and therefore make it difficult for people to see what they've typed in. Okay, so I think we'll leave it there, and we'll update that form just so that we see those changes when we come back in again, and we'll leave it there, and I'll see you in the next video. I hope you enjoyed the video. If you did, please like below, and then if you want to see more videos, subscribe to my channel. Thank you.